What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Vault Reviews, where we give our opinions on some albums you should check out and maybe some you should avoid. I'm one of your hosts, Zan Morning, and you can find me on Twitter at Zan Morning. In fact, you can find me all over social media. It's the same name. Brent's with us once again to check out another album today. Brent, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad, man. You?
Not too bad. We're going to do a little bit different today. What'd you think of this album? This is something we were recommended. We don't normally listen to some of the more mainstream stuff, especially if it's not a form of rock or something. And today we're going to do some Mumford & Sons, Babel from 2012. This was recommended to me from Matt Harmon. I did an interview with him on another show I do, the Figure 4 Fantasy Show, which you can check that out at figure4fantasyshow.podomatic.com. And let me know your thoughts on that. But for now, we're going to take his recommendation, and this is one that he said was a little bit better than maybe some of their newer stuff. And I'm always willing to branch out. Brent, I know you are too, but maybe not so much with this one. Thoughts?
Honestly, not so much. I was willing to go along with a lot of it until they covered a treasured song of mine. And
the Simon and Garfunkel song?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. So let's just kick things off. I mean, this is, would you say folk music, essentially?
Yeah.
Kind of a, I don't know, pop folk music. I don't know. It's really hard. I mean, that's the one thing I do have to give them. It is original style. Would you say so?
Yeah, I guess we could, call it like new funk or something with the N and the U with the umlaut, new folk,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll call it new folk, I guess.
Would you agree that it's somewhat of an original style?
It actually is. And I mean, I was aware of Mumford & Sons before this, and some of their stuff's actually okay. And there's a little bit on this that's okay. But it's kind of what I hate is actually ever since they kind of became popular, I was on a website not long ago and they were talking about like the Mumfordization of the world now, it seems to be. And a lot of people are kind of copying some of this. But I mean, it's pretty original. And I mean, honestly, the talent level is very, very high. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some talented musicians. I'm not going to take that away from them.
Yeah, let's just jump into kind of some elements of it. The first thing stands out to me was the vocals. I mean, That is a seriously interesting vocal style. I don't even know how to classify it. What would you say it is?
Honestly, I don't know. It's actually, I kind of like it, but I couldn't tell at time. And honestly, I don't know where these guys are from. I don't know anything about their past history, none of that stuff at all. But it was almost, it sounded like he has a bit of an accent that kind of came through oddly, like at weird times. And it was almost like he had this weird like Irish accent or something to some of the words. And he may not be Irish. I don't know. But it was kind of strange because like I said, I would catch this weird kind of, I guess, inflection in his tone. And I just thought it was weird. It was a strange accent that it stood out. But I mean, the voice was pretty good. I mean, it's, I don't know what you would call it, I guess. Alto, maybe.
Maybe that's why I said, I said it was original. Maybe you can't call it anything, and that's why it is original, and that's why maybe so many people like it because it sounds different than a lot of other singers that are out there in any kind of genre. Yeah. So let's jump into the music. Interesting style. Very, very talented at their instruments, like you said. Can't knock them there. And some of the songs are pretty cool. Ghosts That We Knew and Broken Crown were two that I had that kind of stood out as being a little different. And then last thing I'll say about that is the production is fantastic. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's kind of pro-tooled or, fake or anything. It sounds like legitimate musicians in a state-of-the-art studio recording. So what was your thoughts on the music and production?
The talent level's absolutely undeniable. I was actually really blown away from the first all the way to the end. The music's, I love kind of banjo and folk music and stuff, whenever they bring all that stuff out. I absolutely love it. That being said, there's some problems with the album, but as far as, like you said, production is fantastic. It doesn't seem fake, like the auto-tune stuff and everything like you mentioned. It does. It just seems like a bunch of good, solid, highly skilled musicians in a fantastic studio. And I think it actually helps the album. A lot of times, I wouldn't necessarily be a big fan, but I think it helps the album quite a bit.
So you said there's some problems. Go ahead and jump into that.
My big problem is once I got to like song 4, I started noticing a trend. And I know the two songs you picked out, or the two I had actually picked out as being really, really good and kind of different. And I would actually put Hopeless Wanderer too as one of them. I actually kind of enjoyed. I thought it was a pretty good song. Ghost That We Knew is my favorite, honestly, on
Yeah,
the
me
entire
too.
album. Broken Crown was good. Hopeless Wanderer. Those were my highlights. But a lot of the problems is you notice the songs start off with just kind of the vocals, and then it slowly builds up, and then there's just this kind of slow crescendo the whole time. And then there's always going to be, I don't really want to call it like a banjo breakdown, but I mean, it's just kind of, it's kind of building to this, I guess, quote unquote, epic ending of
Right.
the song. And that would be fine for a couple of them, but it's every single song does that. And, for some reason, I don't know, it just doesn't all come together on most of the songs for me. And on the ones it does, it comes together really well. But the ones that it doesn't, it all sounds the same. And it to me, it became very kind of formulaic. And it just felt like they were going to do the exact same thing over and over as far as the build-up and stuff. I mean, the music changes and there's some variation with that, but it's just the overall build-up of the music just seemed to be constant throughout.
It's funny. I don't think banjo breakdown has ever been spoken anywhere.
Well, and I don't know that that's like a true way to describe it.
I know what you mean though, and I think you're right with what I think you're meaning, but I just like picture the hardcore breakdown and replacing that with a banjo. It's hilarious.
And that's not exactly what I mean, but once you hear the album, I hope it makes sense. At least that was all that kind of came to my mind. So
That's a really cool idea though.
anytime you can get a banjo is a pretty cool idea, honestly. But
So yeah, let's talk about the negatives once again. That's what really drug this album down for me as well. The rhythm all starts sounding the same. The
Yep.
song structures all getting very repetitive and very predictable. And I think you're right. I think it was kind of about third or fourth song for the most part. They all start sounding the same.
Yep.
They weren't bad songs. They weren't
Right.
written badly. They just all had that same formula, all had that same tone, all had that same sound. You knew what was coming every single time with little to no diversity.
Right.
And that pretty much sums it up. I mean, I don't have anything else to say about this album other than just original style, fantastic musicians, horrible song structure, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's just so repetitive. So, any final thoughts on this, positive or negative, before we give our rating?
As far as positive, I can honestly see why a lot of people enjoy this. And some of that is because it does kind of fall into a very safe song structure. I mean, you get this kind of build up that, the sweeping build that a lot of people like to have in music nowadays and all that. So, I mean, I get it. It's not really for me all the time. I mean, if you're going to do it, change it up a little bit. And for me, honestly, the lyrics are actually pretty decent. The videos I watched and everything to kind of get into the album and stuff, they're not bad. Lyrically, the two songs that I really, really enjoyed, especially Ghost That We Knew and Hopeless Wanderer, I thought the lyrics were actually really, really solidly done. The problem I really ran into is, like I said, the formulaic structure, but whenever they did their cover of The Boxer,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I've said this before, Simon and Garfunkel, one of my favorite groups in music of all time. And this is honestly one of my favorite songs that I've ever listened to across all genres and everything. I mean, this is a top 5 song in my entire musical life. And all I wrote down as far as notes under the song is "They Are Dead to Me."
Wow.
And it just, I understand that, they were trying to bring their style to the Boxer, and that's great. But they just, to me, they were trying, and maybe this isn't fair, but, they were trying to reach this just massive, just amazing echelon of music, and they might as well have just, played it on their butt cheeks as far as I'm concerned. Actually, that might have been better. It just, the way they changed the song and everything just drove me absolutely insane. And partly maybe because, I am a little defensive about that song being one of my favorites. But overall, that actually I actually took the entire score down a whole half point because specifically because of the Boxer. So,
Hey, I can't blame you on that. I'm not a huge fan of cover songs. Like, sometimes it's cool to have a kind of one-off cover if the band is either going to totally change the whole thing and make it their own, just like where it almost doesn't even sound like the same song, or if they're going to do it dead on. I think I actually prefer when they're going to do it dead on and not change anything. It's kind of fun to throw in every now and then. But I'm not as big of a Simon & Garfunkel fan, so I didn't knock it down as much because of that. But they're trying to make that sound their own, and you can add that to just more repetitiveness. I mean, that was my thoughts. So coming down to the rating, Vault scores 1 star being the worst, 5 stars being the best. What do you give this album?
I'm giving it a 2.5. And the reason I'm giving it a 2.5, despite the boxer, is because of the song The Ghost That We Knew, Broken Crown, and Hopeless Wonder. Those 3 songs are actually good, solid songs, and they deserve to be appreciated on their own merits. And the talent level is very high. I can't take anything away from they're very talented musicians. The production's good, and like I said, I can honestly see why people enjoy this band. They're kind of it does feel kind of good. It's a little uplifting. The upswelling of the music and stuff like that, and I can get it. To me, it got old, but I can see where people enjoy it. So for that, I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can see why people would enjoy it. It does have an uplifting tone, now that you put it that way, regardless of song structure or anything of the negatives. So I can see why people like it, and I can maybe see why people that live in kind of urban areas maybe would really prefer it, because when I hear banjo and stuff, I want to hear some straight up bluegrass, or I want to hear some crazy kind of experimental stuff with the folk instruments that you and I are familiar with, because we live in an area where it's just dominated by country music and bluegrass. Right. So that might be one reason why we didn't care as much for this album, but you pretty much nailed everything I feel the same way on, with the exception of the boxer cover, which, either way on that for me personally. Right. I'm going to give this a 3-star. I think it's an average album. It's not going to get any better than that because of the song structure and because of the repetitiveness. But I'm definitely going to rate it higher than you would, simply for the originality, because, to be honest, I had really never heard a band sound anything like this before. Had you?
Well, I had actually listened to a band called The Silent Comedy, which I know we had on one of the radio shows, before I heard Mumford & Sons. Now, I guess actually they came out afterwards, and I think I mentioned on the radio show that it was kind of part of the Mumfordization of the world. But I actually like the Silent Comedy style better. They do a little more unique kind of sound structure, at least off this album anyway. So, I mean, I'd heard a little bit of stuff that was very, very in the kind of a similar vein. But no, I like I said, I had it rated as a 3 until I heard the boxer. And then I lowered it a whole half score just for that one song. So
we're at, what'd you say the rating? 2.5. All right, so we're at 2 3/4. That's not too bad, just below average. I think that's about right. Simply for me, because of the song repetitiveness and song structure. You know what's coming, and it just gets a little old, but the style's fantastic. The musicians are fantastic. The vocals are original. Overall, it's original. So any final thoughts? I think we covered it all.
No, I think I've said my piece on the boxer and on the album. So, no, I'm good. Like I said, I won't. I know I wrote They're Dead to Me, but, if somebody requests, I'll listen to them again with an open mind. So,
all right. So with that, send us some ideas of stuff you want us to review. thevaultmusic1@gmail.com. And we're on social media, on Twitter @thevaultmusic1 and facebook.com/thevaultrvws. And we're on YouTube, Podomatic. You can hit me up personally on Twitter @ZanMorning, ZhanMourning. I've got all kinds of other projects going on. Brent's got some other stuff planned, and we'll let you know about that in the future. But until the next music review, keep jamming. See ya.
Peace.